Florida. Think spectator attractions. What kid doesn't dream of the opportunity to see Shamu at famed SeaWorld? But a different sort of spectacle has attracted 37,000 fans to the Citrus Bowl in Orlando. It's the opening of the AMA Supercross Series. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Orlando and the kickoff of ESPN's 1992 AMA Camel Supercross motorcycle racing coverage. I'm Dave Despain with Larry Myers, our ESPN analyst. You're going to be answering a lot of questions in the next 16 weeks. Let me start with an easy one. What the heck is Supercross?
Well, it's the European sport of motocross Americanized. We put it into stadiums where there are comfortable seats, comfortable restrooms, and all of the action is right up front where you can see it.
Impressive statistics for this series. 16 events in 15 stadiums nationwide, 500,000 spectators, and listen to this, $2 million in prize money. That makes it serious business, and it all starts right here tonight.
It's opening night, and that is exciting. You know what makes it so exciting? Down on the line, there are a whole passel of riders. Every one of them think that they're going to take that checkered flag.
They're all winners on opening night, but among that pack, the man who has won more motocross and supercross races than anybody else in the history of the game. He's retired now, and that means he can join our telecast team. Let's join our pit reporter standing by at the finish line, Bob Hurricane Hanna.
This is the place everybody's going to want to be tonight and in first place. The great riders here tonight, Jean-Michel Bell, of course, last year's champion, Jeff Stanton, veteran Jeff Ward, and newcomer, relatively newcomer, Damon Bradshaw. They had a little fright of rain today earlier, but the sun did come out. The track's in great shape. Nothing out there but the stars now, and a great track. Looking for some great racing. Back to you guys.
Hi, thank you, Bob. Larry, there are legitimate questions, I think, about Jean-Michel Bale's condition and also his motivation coming into this race. There is no question that last year he was the dominant man in Supercross. Let's go back and take a look at the 1991 season in review. Two-time world champion Jean-Michel Bale came to America to challenge Jeff Stanton, the reigning king of Supercross. Stanton was looking for a record-tying third straight championship as the gate dropped here in Orlando to kick off the 1991 campaign. All the pundits of the preseason knew that the Honda teammates, Bale and Stanton, would be rivals. Damon Bradshaw, number 11, demonstrated that he could run with the big guys up front, though he couldn't match Stanton's speed. While those two were battling for the lead, Jean-Michel Bale worked his way through the traffic and became a factor late in the race. This was the beginning of early season Team Honda dominance of the championship. Stanton won the race, Bale finished second, and those two would share the wins in the first 5 races of the series. Larry, it was clear immediately that this would boil down to a two-man championship battle.
For Jeff Stanton, it was a record-tying 3 wins, as you earlier stated, Dave. Very important to that young man. For Jean-Michel Bale, a dream come true. He publicly stated when he was a mini-bike rider in France, this was the most prestigious title in the world. It's the one he wanted to cap off his brilliant career.
The turning point came in mid-season in Michigan in the form of a huge disappointment. Jeff Stanton came to the Pontiac Silverdome hoping to move away from Bale in the championship. Instead, this crash effectively ended his hopes of winning the title. Tangled up in traffic, Stanton lost his momentum over this jump, nosed the front end in, went over the bars, and landed on his shoulder. He dislocated that left shoulder, missed a total of 3 races, and Jean-Michel Bale had a free run at the championship. He had the chance to clinch in Oklahoma. Guy Cooper and Jeff Matasevich, the two guys who stood between him and the title, and they effectively took themselves right out of the picture in one of the more spectacular moments of the 91 season. There's some bad blood left over from that as we come into 92. Bale wrapped up the crown, went on to set a record for single-season Supercross wins, and thus a Frenchman reigns as the king of American Supercross. That was then. This is now. A record crowd have jammed the Citrus Bowl for the 92 opener. We'll be back to take a look at the racetrack. We're back in Orlando, Florida. The Citrus Bowl turned into a racetrack here on a Saturday night that promises to be very exciting. Let's take a look at this difficult and demanding course that has been built on the floor of the stadium. The wide starting area to the right of your screen. Then, Larry, you see how the course twists and turns back. It's interesting in diagram. It's really interesting from the cycle cam.
This is the Isuzu cycle cam. As a matter of fact, it's aboard the motorcycle of Todd DeHoop. It's a tough racing Suzuki. And, of course, Todd DeHoop is doing the roller coaster type riding. That particular section, you saw that deep sand pit. That's what the riders are faced with when they come off the top of a long triple jump. And this is just kind of an up and down process. Here's a whole bunch of whoop-de-doos, one of the rougher parts of the racetrack. All in all, it's designed to make the average guy ill. It's like a out-of-control merry-go-round or Ferris wheel.
All right, that's the racetrack. These are the riders lining up for the first of two heat races. Here's how they qualify for the main event. Top 4 from those 2 heats transfer directly to the main. Everybody else rides the semis. Top 5 from the semis move on. Everybody else rides the last chance qualifier. Top 2 from there go to the main. Let's go back and take a look at the heat race highlights. This was the start of the 1992 season. The gate drops, the field roars off into turn number 1. 40,000 fans screaming, and immediately there's a huge crash that puts 6 riders on the ground. And Larry, a couple of them are big names. You'll get a look at Damon Bradshaw here, apparently having hurt his back. What happened anyway?
Well, Damon Bradshaw and the rider that rode our bike cam, Todd DeHoop, started it. There they are, about in the center of the pack. They tangled. They went down. The domino theory, one right after another. Involved in the crash, not only Damon Bradshaw, Steve Lamson, Jeff Stanton, Guy Cooper. Some of the biggest names in the business are going to have to go to semifinals. Now, Stanton rode directly off the racetrack. Had a set of tweaked handlebars. His motorcycle was twisted. He could not continue. Bradshaw rode a lap or 2. Then he went off the track. And meanwhile, Dave, Larry Ward said, hey, your loss, my gain. He took the whole shot, followed by Jeff Matasevich.
So as we pick up the battle for first and second, let's note that Bradshaw and Stanton will both have to ride the semifinal, and Larry Ward on the Suzuki comes out of it as the leader of heat race number 1. Matasevich into the sand pit, comes into the season as a big question mark with that broken leg. He's got a pin through his femur.
Question is whether or not, Dave, he's ready to race. He's back awfully early. We'll talk about that later.
Here's a look at Trampas Parker. Consider this. He is the 250cc world champion. He's never qualified for a Supercross race until tonight. 3rd place in the heat race would put him into the main event if he can hang on to it. Quite an accomplishment and also quite a measure of how important this series is. Larry Ward comes to the white flag leading over Jeff Matasevich. Can't help but remember 1990 when these 2 guys tried to knock each other into the nickel seats up in the Kingdome in Seattle, Washington. That was the only victory of the career of Larry Ward. Tonight he's well on track as the first heat race of the 1992 season sees him dominating his old rival, Jeff Matasevich. Important for Ward, who barely held on to his factory ride last year.
And the factory ride is ever so important. They are the riders that are the elite of Supercross. They have everything handed to them, a big salary, and who wouldn't want to be there?
There's another reason for these guys to get the gas on in the heat races as we watch Ward pulling away a little bit from Matasevich. He wants to have the fastest heat of the night. Why is that?
Well, he does. It's the Coors Light Silver Bullet Showdown Award. The guy that accumulates the most heat wins, or fastest heat race wins, I should say, through the season is eligible for a $25,000 bonus at the end of the year.
So Larry Ward takes the first checkered flag of the new season, winning the heat over Jeff Matasevich, Trampas Parker, and Mike Jones. Let's go to Bob Hanna and Larry Ward.
First qualifier of the night, Jeff Stanton, Damon Bradshaw, both out of it in a first turn crash, but the winner is Larry Ward, Factory Suzuki. Larry, I saw you do this a couple years ago at Seattle. The crowd was behind you. You totally dominated that race. How do you feel?
Well, I feel real good tonight. My Suzuki's running real well. I got a good start. Unfortunately, Bradshaw and Stanton went down. I hope they're both all right, and I'd like to beat both of them in the main.
Yeah, you and 40 other guys, Larry. Don't forget, Stanton and Bradshaw both got to run the semi just to get to the main. We go to the highlights of heat race number 2. Great hole shot for Jeff Emig, storming down the inside of the racetrack to turn number 1, going entirely too fast, runs right off the racetrack, takes 3 other guys with him. Opening night jitters for number 8. Then That's number 20, Eric Kehoe. Kenny Kezar involved. Emmett gets back underway. We'll see a lot more of him later. Mike Kudrowski takes the lead. Doug Dubach second on the Yamaha. Here's number 14, Mike Fisher, in a great battle with the 28 of Gene Newmark, the Enzo Racing Kawasaki. And that is the race for third and fourth. The final two transfer spots into the championship main event. Big bobble there by Fisher in that sand pit, which is characteristic of Florida and imported into the stadium here for the Orlando Supercross. As Fisher and Newmark battle, they are pursued by number 1, Jean-Michel Bayle, the series champion, his first race of the new season. A lot of people think the Frenchman may not be very motivated, Larry.
Dave, it's hard to tell what is running through the mind of Jean-Michel Bayle at this particular time. Bayle was injured in a Supercross incident in Europe. He's not had the training that he normally would coming into the season opener here in the States. Although the way he's riding right now, it certainly does not show, and he looks highly motivated. But again, those are back markers. Those are not the elite of the Supercross crowd, and we're going to have to wait and see what kind of performance Bayle turns in when he's battling Stanton, battling Bradshaw, and all of the marbles are on the line.
Whatever his problems in the offseason, Bayle is spectacular to watch. Look how he squares off this corner, comes back, takes the inside line, and grabs third away from Newmark as if Gene were not even in the picture. And literally out of the picture in heat race number 2 are Mike Kudrowski's two teammates, Mike LaRocco and Jeff Ward, as Kudrowski carries the Kawasaki hopes under heavy pressure here from Doug Dubach. Both LaRocco and Ward have crashed, and they're going to have to come back and ride the semifinal. Meanwhile, Larry, Kudrowski hoping to improve on last season. He won the 125 Outdoor Championship, 4th in Supercross with a consistent season.
A consistent season, I think, Dave, that most riders would be proud to have. We saw the white flag there indicating 1 lap remaining. That's how long he has to keep it upright to take the win. Talking consistency, he was consistently in the top 5. He was just always there, but he really never pushed. He never went for that win. And that's what he says he's going to do this year. Hang on to the consistency, but push just a little bit harder, collect a checkered flag or two, and be a factor in the series title chase.
I don't think anybody can win this championship without winning races. Bayle took 8 wins last year, so if you can't win races, at best, you're going to be about a 3rd or 4th place guy in the series.
Another quick comment regarding Bayle. He achieved his goal by winning the championship last year. Now he wants to go road racing. He may not be motivated.
No question about Mike Kudrowski's motivation as he works his way through the last few corners and whoopsie-doos, coming up to the checkered flag to complete the 2nd heat race of this 92 season. And as Motocross Mike comes up over the checkered flag, a last lap change of positions. Bayle and Dubach swap 2nd and 3rd. So the series champ is the runner-up. Newmark gets the last transfer, and we go to Bob Hanna.
Second qualifier, hot and heavy action between Doug Dubach and Mike Kudrowski. Mike, Dubach was hot and heavy on you. Any pressure from him?
Yeah, I didn't even know who was behind me. I kind of felt it was my teammate LaRocco or Wardy, somebody like that. I didn't know it was Dubach, but he was
looking back?
Yeah, I never looked back. You look back, you start getting worried and start making mistakes, but I rode pretty good. I missed the triple one time. I kind of overjumped it, and I didn't have enough drive, but it was a good race. It was my first heat race win for Kawasaki.
The heats are complete. Larry Ward and Mike Kudrowski have won them. We'll be back with more qualifying from Orlando right after this. Two-time Supercross champion Jeff Stanton is buried in the semi-final. A big crash in his heat race has beaten him up badly. Bob Hanna talked to him about it.
Jeff, you had a good start the first qualifier. It looked like some guys were piling in on the backside of you. What happened?
I really don't know what happened. Like you say, they just kept piling from behind, and next thing I know, I'm on the ground getting run all over. But here we are, ready to go again.
Are you ready to go in the semi?
Yeah, I messed my face up a little bit, but I'll be all right.
No bones hurt or knees twisted?
No, nothing twisted, just bruised.
Just make you a little tougher for the semi.
It sure does.
43.
Well, Stanton looks like he's been in a street fight, and don't forget his title rival Damon Bradshaw is in this semifinal with him. They were both involved in that big crash. Drop of the gate, we're underway. Down they thunder into turn number 1, and Brian McElroy gets the start of his life as everybody else comes bouncing off the hay bales and through the first couple of turns. And look what happened to McElroy, Larry.
Well, you know, you don't have this opportunity. You're in front of a lot of fans and friends, and bingo! He goes down. No No one pushed him. He just went down, took a bite of ground.
Local boy from Florida got pretty excited and overplayed it just a little bit. Here's the battle up front, just as you would expect. Number 4, Bradshaw, and number 2, Stanton, doing in the semifinal exactly what they expected to be doing in the heat. That is, racing each other for the transfer spot into the main event. Inside move by Stanton, not enough as Bradshaw holds the line and the lead. Damon says he is much better prepared for this season than he was last year, although it certainly got off to an awkward start with that crash. Here is the battle for third. Number 25, Todd DeHoop. Number 16, Steve Lamson. Familiar names? Yes, indeed. They were also involved in that big crash in turn 1. And behind them comes Guy Cooper, the 5th member of that group, who hit the hay bales in number 1. That says to me, Larry, that would have been a heck of a heat race if they had not fallen down.
Indeed, it would have been. Instead, it's a heck of a semi. Guy Cooper blows by Todd DeHoop. He takes over the number 4 position. Immediately in front of him, Steve Lamson, rider number 16 on the Suzuki, is in third.
While Cooper is clearly charging, I don't get the sense that Stanton is putting a lot of pressure on Damon Bradshaw.
I think at this stage of the ball game, both Stanton and Bradshaw, experienced veterans, are concerned with qualifying. They've been on the ground once. Both of them, I think, physically shaken. And I think they would like to come through this heat race unscathed and to find themselves on the starting line when the gate drops for that main event. That's the concern right now, Dave.
Doesn't pay any extra money to win the semifinal rather than finish second. Stanton's a smart guy. He's not going to take any chances, especially against the rider of Bradshaw's caliber. Meanwhile, Cooper is going after Lamson like there was no tomorrow.
That's Guy Cooper's makeup. You know, all he sees is a rider in front of him, and he's not thinking of tomorrow. He's only thinking pass, pass, pass. And another consideration might be, Dave, he may not know what position he's in. He may think that he needs to pass 2 or 3 other riders to qualify.
Look how he got out of sync right there on the jumps and lost some ground to Lamson, who really had a charge going, and it all went away. And so one of the big favorites of the Supercross fans, Damon Bradshaw, shows off a little for the adoring thousands. Here comes Stanton to take the runner-up spot. Look at the battle for third. The teammates, Lamson and Cooper, having at it. Watch Cooper. He finishes 4th, but a big clicker for the crowd. Like you said, this guy's a racer. He just loves doing this. Congratulates his teammate. They're both in the main event. And rounding out the transfers to the final, 5th place to Keith Johnson on the KTM. We go to the second semifinal now. We will see the Kawasaki teammates Jeff Ward and Mike LaRocco again. Heat race crash victims as they charge into turn number 1. The lead goes to Eric Kehoe, number 20, as the rest of the pack again bouncing off the berms and the hay bales there, trying to get through that first turn. Kehoe got a great start. Number 7 is LaRocco into that second spot, and that's Mark Musselman on the outside of LaRocco taking over third. And this, I think, is time to deal with what everyone thought would be one of the big pre-race stories. The start of the farewell season for number 6, Jeff Ward. You're going to have to search to find him. There he is, a glimpse of him running in 5th spot. Wardy has won 2 Supercross championships, 7 national titles. Here he comes in 5th spot. This will be his final season of racing, 25 years in motocross. He's struggling in the semi after his crash. But no struggle at all for number 20, Eric Earthquake Kehoe. Set sail, Larry.
I bet Kehoe wishes when he were a factory rider for Team Suzuki that more performances like this one would have come his way. He just wasn't able to make it click. He won several 125 national outings, but never put together the type of season that Suzuki was looking for. Lost the factory ride, now campaigning as a privateer aboard a Pro Circuit Racing Honda, and he's doing very, very well.
As Earthquake leads the way, suddenly out of nowhere, a charge from Mike LaRocco leaping into the frame and apparently going after Kehoe.
Well, he wants to win, no two ways about it. He's a racer, but more importantly, he's looking at lines on the racetrack. I think he's anticipating Kehoe is going to go here, so I'm going to try something new underneath. A semi is a great place, Dave, to experiment.
The only good thing about being in the semi for guys like Mike LaRocco, making his Kawasaki debut here tonight, finishing 2nd behind number 20, Eric Kehoe, in the semifinal. The other transfer spots will go to number 14, Mike Fisher. Jeff Emig was 4th, and Wardy settled for 5th.
In the last chance qualifier, 2 riders, Brian McElroy and Fred Andrews, move on to the main event.
125 championship main event is next. We'll be back with more from Orlando. 7,000 on hand in Orlando, Florida for the kickoff of the Supercross season. Triple jumps. One of the reasons why these folks are here. That's the subject of our track fact.
dramatic and it's dangerous. It's called the triple jump, and it's an anxious moment in every Supercross rider's day.
The fans view them, you know, they see us jumping 65, 70 feet in distance, about 15, 20 feet high, and they think it's great. You know, for us, though, it's everyone by the main event does the triples, and it's kind of just more or less a straightaway.
It's never a good feeling knowing that you're going to come up short on a triple, but you just got to prepare for it the best you can.
Well, if you have plenty of run like we have out here today, they're a piece of cake, but it's when we have only like 10 feet and everything's got to be perfect and 20 laps of race, and, you know, there's bound to be a mistake once or twice. And but I think for the crowd, I think they have to be there just so the landing's safe also.
While each rider views the triple jump differently, there's no doubt how the fans feel. What I want to know is why you're sitting over here by these triple jumps.
Great action, how high they get, it's just great.
Is it the best spot on the track?
Definitely.
How come you two ladies are sitting so close to the track down here?
We like the triple jump.
Did you bring your cameras?
Yes.
Derek, how do you like Supercross?
I love it.
How do you like the triple jump?
I love it.
I'm glad the fans love them, and I'm glad of one more thing, that they weren't quite so far away when I was still riding. At my age now, I like these triple jumps from the stands.
Well, I don't get the idea that the Hurricane's coming out of retirement anytime soon. Fans on their feet. Dave Despain with Larry Myers in Orlando, Florida, less than 30 seconds away from the start of the 125cc main event. Tell me about the class.
Well, the first thing you need to know, it's going to provide some of the most exciting racing of the evening. It always does. Why? Because we're looking at youngsters that are making their mark in Supercross competition. It's the first step before becoming one of the big guys. 16, 17, 18 years old. They're set for excitement. They're set to win, and the gate is about to go.
There's the launch. The first 125cc main event of the year is underway. Jimmy Button has the lead down on the bottom, challenged by Jeremy Buell. Whoa, Tim Ferry off the racetrack. 22 guys went into the turn, 21 came out, and the battle for the lead finds Buell taking over the spot. He had that inside line. He gets it back away from Button, and here is number 117, Ezra Lusk, 16 years old, and after watching this guy fly all night, everybody's talking about him.
He is a flyer. He loves to jump, and he does it with style and grace that really is well beyond his 16 years of age. He's going to be a factor in this season. Brian Swink right behind him, rider number 1. He's the defending champion of this East Coast Regional 125 contest, and he's chasing Ezra Lusk, as a matter of fact.
Swink didn't get the great start. In fact, it's Buell and Button having the battle out front with Lusk in the third spot. Brian Swink's number 1 plate indicates he's the champion of the Eastern region. Later in the series, we'll go out west and see a different group of riders, and in fact, a different number 1. Right now, Swink is 4th, and his former teammate, number 36, Buell, leads the race.
Just 1 year ago, both Swink and Buell rode under the banner of Pro Circuit Peak Antifreeze Honda. Swink this year going to Suzuki. He took the number 1 plate with him.
Good time to make the point that Buell's Pro Circuit Honda is kind of a shadow factory effort. So, too, is Button's DGY Yamaha. The factories don't have a contract with these riders that farm their support out to these other teams. And now and Button is on the ground.
He just got crossways in the sand and went down.
Take another look at it and see what happened to the man who was running second.
Well, it started when he landed off that jump. He lost all his momentum going up the face of the sand pit. He got on top, front end just washed out from underneath him.
But if Jeremy Buell thought he was going to get a break with Button's demise, forget it, because here comes Ezra Lusk, the 16-year-old sensation from Bainbridge, Georgia, factory team Suzuki rider, and he is all over the leader.
This is the first major professional race of Ezra Lusk's career, and I must say I'm surprised and I'm impressed. Surprised because you wouldn't think a youngster would have the moxie to hang in there the way he's doing, and impressed, well, obviously impressed. He's doing a heck of a job.
But Larry, it's one thing to run up front early in the race. It's another to be there at the finish. We'll find out whether 16-year-old Ezra Lusk is up to that task as Jeremy Buell continues to lead for the moment. We'll take a quick look at the top 5 and be back with more from Orlando right after this timeout. Florida, the 1992 AMA Camel Super Supercross Series packed with action thus far. We're in the 125cc main event, the first of two championship finals tonight, and you are watching an impressive debut for number 117, the rookie pro, 16-year-old Ezra Lusk, battling a veteran of this 125 class, Jeremy Buell of London, Ohio. What do you think? Is Ezra for real?
Well, for sure, he's for real. He's gone this far without crashing. That tells me he's for real. What's happening right now, though, is Jeremy Buell is taking every line that he possibly can to block Ezra Lusk. Ezra Lusk, in the meantime, is switching lines, trying to make the pass, and that, Dave, has allowed that man, Brian Swink, to catch up.
And the question in my mind, Larry, is whether Brian Swink wants to get in there and mix it up with these two guys early in this race, or does he want to kind of hang back and feel this kid out a little bit more?
I think Brian Swink's strategy would have to be, let's see what happens. He's content right now to watch the battle in front of him. He knows, obviously, he is the superior rider, but why stick your wheel in there? Why mix it up with him? See, he went to the inside, but he backed right out of it. Why get involved in some kind of a fracas if you can avoid it and maybe make a good clean pass later in the race?
Well, he is certainly staying close enough to make the move, but as you point out, he's not putting himself in any kind of a position of jeopardy. Instead, he's letting Buell lead it and letting Ezra Lusk put the challenge on. I think it's a good time to make the point that these kids like Ezra Lusk, by the time they get to this stage in their career, have a tremendous amount of experience. Yes, he's a 16-year-old kid, but like, for example, a Jeff Ward, he's been racing all his life. He started on mini bikes. That's what separates these American riders from their European counterparts. The Europeans don't have that kind of system. They don't get that experience early. So by the time an Ezra Lusk is 16 and comes to Orlando, he's ready to race. He knows the business.
Well, he's been in a Supercross or two because there is a very strong amateur Supercross series, and look at Lusk. He went for the pass. Buell got in his way. He almost lost it, cut back to the inside, and saved it. Dave, for a man of 16 years old, limited experience in pro racing, that was an excellent move.
Larry, there's one place on this racetrack where I see Lusk doing something different, and coming up right here.
That's a set of jumps. Now watch. You'll see Jeremy Buell. He double. Look how high, how far Ezra Lusk goes. He triple jumped that. Every time he does it, he gains ground.
Lusk clearly the caution to the wind charger in this pair as they and they bump. They collide. He knocked Buell off the racetrack. Lusk threw a shoulder into him and sent Buell flying.
Let's take another look. Here comes Lusk on the inside. Buell shoots down from that bank corner. Bang! The lines intersect, Dave, and it's history.
I think lines intersect may be the key word. Larry, take another look at the high angle. See how they intersect. Guarantee you, Buell fans will claim it was a cheap shot. Ezra will say it was just racing. In any case, Ezra Lusk is now the leader of the race, and we'll see what kind of pressure he comes under from Brian Swink now that Swink has only Ezra to worry about.
You remember your question, is Ezra Lusk for real? What do you think now, Dave?
Well, I think he made Jeremy Buell a believer, but I think maybe the real test is lurking right there behind him, as you pointed out earlier. Brian Swink is the class act of the Eastern region. He's the series champ. You speculated that he was holding back and waiting to see how the Buell-Lusk battle would come out. We now know the answer to that, and I think he's going to go after him.
He is. Look, he's moved to the rear wheel of Lusk. He did it immediately. He's just biding his time, looking for a point, and he's going to look at him switch lines. A beautiful move on the part of Brian Swink to avoid, as he makes the pass, to avoid running into the rear end of Ezra Lusk. That could have put them both down.
Yeah, Larry, I think that's worth another look as well.
Ezra Lusk loses his momentum in the sand. He comes almost to a halt, and Brian Swink at the last second swerves around the outside, and he ends up actually making the pass.
Good move by Swink, who takes the lead from Lusk. Lusk will certainly be the man everybody will be talking about however this one comes out tonight. But as you can see here, he has no speed to match the series champ. Here is Jimmy Button. Button crashed earlier. He has come back to run third. It's important when you crash not to lose your rhythm, not to lose your momentum, not to lose your focus on those all-important series points. So it's a good comeback here for Jimmy Button. The lap's beginning to wind down in this 125 final. Take a look at the top five. Swink, Lusk, and Button, followed by Doug Henry, and Jeremy Buell, after his tangle with Lusk, is back up to fifth. We'll be right back. Florida, the Citrus Bowl, hosting round one, the series opener for the 1992 AMA Camel Supercross Championship. Little bobble there by number one, Brian Swink, who's putting on a riding clinic here in the Eastern Regional 125 Championship Series opener. This is the early race leader, Jimmy Button. He crashed, now sits in third spot with very little chance, I think, of catching up at this point. He's riding very well, but he's just too far behind the leader to have any chance of pulling out the victory. And sandwiched in between these two, Ezra Lusk, the youngster who's been so spectacular tonight. Larry, we saw a little bobble there earlier for Swink, but I don't think this guy's in any real trouble.
No, absolutely not. He is in total control of this race. He cast a look over his shoulder. White flag last lap. When he looked back, he saw Ezra Lusk behind him, and there's a glimpse as Lusk flashes through the camera. But he's in total control. He knows absolutely that he has won this one. Got to keep it upright, but he'll do that. He's a veteran by now.
Here you can see the interval back to Lusk as number 1, Brian Swink, starts throwing the fist aloft, anticipating victory here in the series opener. Great way to start your championship defense by winning the first race of the brand new season. Hello, folks. Look at me. Aren't I something with my number 1 plate blasting through the sand where he made the pass that won the race. At least he thinks he's won the race, Larry. Lusk isn't that far back.
He's not that far back. And how embarrassing, after doing a couple of the clickers and waving to the crowd, would it be to have Lusk make the pass because he's within striking distance?
I guarantee you Lusk doesn't know Lusk is beaten yet. He's about 3 bike legs back and still riding the wheels off this thing. It is, in fact, over. There is the checkered flag, and Swink with his best clicker of all wins it right there. And a little wave to the crowd, too, from Lusk. Here's the third place man. Button did a nice job after the early problem with the fall off. He comes back with a clicker of his own to claim third spot. Take a look at the top 5. Swink, Lusk, and Button the top 3. Buell got around Doug Henry late in the race to take over 4th. Jeff DeMint, another youngster, was 6th. Pedersen, Karsten, Edwards, and Coleman. Let's go to Bob Hanno with the winner, Brian Swink.
Brian Swink, there's a reason why that number 1's on that bike, and we all got to see it tonight. That was a fantastic ride. Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, I just tried riding smart, safe, wait until the end. Just rode smooth, let them guys do what they wanted to do out front. They made my move at the end.
How was that young kid, Ezra Lusk, ride against?
Oh, very good. I thought he'd fade a little more than he did. He rode strong. I had to ride a little higher at the end than I expected.
Is it hard to pass a teammate like that?
Yeah, kind of. You don't want to bump him unless you have to. And luckily, I just made a clean pass around him.
Great riding, Brian.
Thanks a lot.
So Brian Swink will sit atop the series standings for at least a week. The results in the standings identical with just 1 race down. And as the 125 riders pop the cork and begin their celebration, we look ahead to the 250cc main event coming up right after this. No, there hasn't been a fire in the Citrus Bowl. This is the aftermath of the fireworks display preceding the main event. Dave Despain and Larry Myers with the kickoff of the 1992 AMA Camel Supercross Championship. You want to pick a winner out of this, buddy?
I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. I could give you 10, maybe.
Well, a lot of the guys that we thought would be pre-race favorites have struggled tonight. Jeff Stanton, Damon Bradshaw, Mike LaRocco, Jeff Ward, Guy Cooper have all had crashes and other problems and a difficult time just getting into this final. But now we're down to it. 20 laps is the distance. 20 riders are set to go. At the end of the rainbow, a $100,000 championship awaits. Ladies and gentlemen, the 1992 season underway. Charges on to the first turn, and Jeff Emig gets a hole shot. Yamaha rider, you haven't seen him all night. Came out of the consolation. He leads the race over Matasevich second into third spot as they work their way through turns 3 and 4 for the first time. The Suzuki teammates, Larry Ward and Steve Lamson. And the big guns stuck back in the traffic, Larry.
Well, after the results of that first heat race crash, I can understand why they might be just a little bit gun-shy. In any event, it looked to me like Bale, like Stanton, like Damon Bradshaw just backed off the pace and let the field go through corner number 1.
To watch for the numbers. Number 4, Damon Bradshaw. Number 1, Jean-Michel Bale. There's Bale right beside Jeff Stanton. Number 2, they're outside the top 10. Got a long way to go to the front as Emig sets the pace up front. And number 9, Jeff Matasevich, tries to hold off the Suzuki charge of Ward and Lamson.
I think it's going to be interesting from this point on. Jeff Matasevich is really not pushing Emig. As a matter of fact, he's letting Emig go, and Emig has opened up about a 4 or 5 bike length lead as we watch the rest of the field come through. Matasevich is in effect, maybe because of lack of training, that injury that you mentioned earlier, Dave, holding up the rest of the pack.
Lamson has moved around Ward to take over third. Now they're side by side in the race for third and fourth, and give the spot back to Larry Ward. Behind them, the challenge from the fifth-place man, Mike LaRocco, trying to get something going here in his debut for Team Kawasaki. He is alongside the youngster Lamson and makes the pass to pull off fourth spot. His teammate from last year, number 10, Larry Ward, solidly in third. He'll be the next man in LaRocco's sights. Meanwhile, Jeff Emig out front. For the folks who haven't followed this series for a couple of years, who the heck is Jeff Emig?
Well, Jeff Emig in 1991 rode a 125 in the Western Series. Then when the opportunity presented, he was not on that 125cc bike. Eastern races, he jumped aboard a 250, and he was quite impressive. I think it led up to this full-time 250 in 1992, and Yamaha is getting their money's worth.
Everybody talks about Damon Bradshaw as the Yamaha guy. Emig is the guy stealing all the headlines right now, and Bradshaw is way back in the pack and playing catch-up. So Emig sets the pace over Matasevich. If he's a question mark with that broken leg right now, the answer is fast, 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 because he is in second spot under some pressure from Larry Ward. That's very impressive to have that kind of an injury and come back as quickly as Matasevich did.
Well, the question in my mind, can he keep it up? Is he going to run into some kind of a fatigue wall as this race progresses? Meanwhile, no fatigue out front. Emig is flat, getting the job done. I'm impressed.
Ward trying to put some pressure on Matasevich. Larry was a heat race winner here tonight after the big crash for Stanton and Bale in turn one. He'd like to take advantage of any Matasevich weakness and get himself into second spot, perhaps mount a challenge at Emig. I'm impressed at the gap that Emig is maintaining here. Matasevich is certainly not able to match the speed of the leader, and for the moment, what a shocker. Who would have expected that 5 laps into the first race of the season, the guy we'd be talking about is Jeff Emig. Not that he's not a great rider, but he certainly knows Jean-Michel Bale. Here's the battle for second place, and it is tightening up. Matasevich is under pressure from Ward. Ward, in turn, is being pursued by LaRocco, the man on the move. Number 3, Kedrowski, is now 5th. Could be a big night for Kawasaki with 3 men in the top 5.
Let me throw one more at you. Right behind Kedrowski, rider number 4. He'll come into our view here in a second. There he is, Damon Bradshaw. He has come from out of the top 10. He is the fastest rider on the racetrack right now. Look for him to be a factor in this one before it's over.
A night of surprises, certainly, in Orlando, and I think that's one of the appeals of Supercross, the fact that it is indeed a pretty unpredictable ball game that unfolds in these stadiums back and forth across America. Who would have picked Jeff Matasevich to run second in this, his first race back after that big crash? LaRocco battling with Kedrowski, the Team Kawasaki guys headed for the front. LaRocco, winner at the Las Vegas Supercross last year. Kedrowski has never won a Supercross, so this could be a big night for either of these guys. LaRocco seems to be the most aggressive man in the top 5. Look here as he moves inside, forces Ward out of position, takes over the 3rd spot. LaRocco closing in on his other teammate, number 9, Jeff Matasevich. Good 4-man battle right there.
LaRocco is on a roll. You mentioned the word, or you said rather the word aggressive, and that's almost an understatement. LaRocco came through that set of whoops. He invented a line all over the motorcycle. Oh, and look at the bump.
Hey, that was Kedrowski bumping, blasting his way past Larry Ward. That'll move him into 4th spot. He didn't want to let LaRocco get away. It shakes up the top 5, and we'll be back with more from Orlando right after this. Tuned in to watch Jean-Michel Bale, Jeff Stanton, Damon Bradshaw. Instead, you're seeing Jeff Emig, Jeff Matasevich, Mike LaRocco. What's going on here? LaRocco puts an inside move on Matasevich, takes over 2nd spot in the opening round of the 1992 Camel Supercross Series. It has been a night of surprises indeed. The big names are still working their way through the traffic. You'll get glimpses of Jeff Stanton as this pack work their way over the jump. Stanton is now up to 5th spot. That is the best of the big names. Bradshaw has crashed and gone to the back of the pack, and Bale has just been cruising around. The series champ is sitting at the tail end of the top 10 with problems that perhaps he'll be able to explain after the race is over. Larry, I get the impression as we watch this battle for 3rd that the pace of this race is changing.
It indeed. As a matter of fact, some riders being left behind. Matasevich most notably. He was just passed by Kedrowski. There goes Stanton. Stanton nailed the triple. He takes over the number 4 position. Kedrowski now up into 3rd, and that puts Matasevich all the way back to 5th.
Matasevich hit that wall you talked about earlier?
That's the one. Matasevich is flat, running out of gas, and frankly, I don't know how he has kept it up there as long as he has.
Remember Jeff Matasevich coming off the broken leg. Stanton basically making up from a terrible start here. He crashed in the start of his heat race, had to run the semifinal, but he is now the man on the move going after Kedrowski and number 7 LaRocco. They are the Kawasaki teammate, and they now sit in 2nd and 3rd spot in the race. They're behind the leader, Jeff Emig, who has set the pace from the start in a big surprise here in the series opener. Stanton, you got to feel like a freight train.
He is. He has the momentum. The adrenaline is flowing. Now, I think that Jeff Emig is riding a little on the conservative side. I think that he's looking for a good, strong finish here. He should not be, because the riders that are coming up are faster than he is. Emig, if he wants to win, needs to let it all hang out. He's not doing that.
It has become a 4-man race, and you see him here. Emig number 8, 7 is LaRocco, 3 is Kedrowski, 2 is Stanton, a gap back from them. As you look at records and past performances, you have to view Stanton as the favorite out of this quartet. He's the 2-time series champ. He's passed a lot of people. Oh, and he bobbles big time, hit the bale, strung hay all over the racetrack, and yet did not lose so much as a bike lane.
Not at all, and he's not taking any time to collect himself. Now, that's when the adrenaline is really flowing, when you can recover from a bobble like that and get right back on your man and look for another line around him, well, you've got things going your way.
The laps are winding down, and the pressure is on Stanton, who knows that his teammate Jean-Michel Bale is a long way back. This is a great opportunity to establish his supremacy early on. He may or may not know that Bradshaw has crashed, but in any case, right now, Stanton is the guy who is charging, goes up high, takes another line, goes after Kedrowski. Motocross Mike grabs a big handful, does a double jump, and retaliates and holds on to the spot. Good racing here. This is what we expected to see through the whole night.
Well, we're seeing it now, and it is exciting. Now, one of the things that we need to point out here is that Mike LaRocco is now starting to pressure Jeff Emig. Emig has not had pressure on him all night long. How will he? That's how he's going to react. LaRocco put the pressure on, and Emig went wide. LaRocco snuck to the inside, made the pass. We've got a new leader.
First time tonight, Mike LaRocco out front. Emig surrenders under pressure, blew the left-hander after the start-finish line, and into the lead goes LaRocco. Now, the question, can Stanton get around Kedrowski and go up there to mix it up with his old rival, Mike LaRocco? Still a tight 4-man battle at the tail end of that quartet. Stanton trying to make moves on the outside. He did this last lap as well. Goes around the sand trap now, comes up alongside Kedrowski. Battle for 3rd. Stanton has the inside line. Whoa, bobble for Emig, and Kedrowski drilled him and fell off. The 2nd and 3rd place riders have crashed. Stanton will go to 2nd spot. Big development here. That's going to shake up the top 5. We'll take a look at it when we come back. Mike LaRocco leads the race. Stanton is 2nd. Jeff Ward moves up to 3rd. Matasevich is 4th, and Larry Ward is 5th. We'll be back after this. Battle for the lead. Mike LaRocco on the Kawasaki out front of Jeff Stanton, the 2-time series champ, and Stanton is right at his rear wheel. He was the big beneficiary of that mishap just before the commercial involving Jeff Emig and Mike Kedrowski. We'll go back in a moment and take a look at that. Right now, I think the question is whether Stanton can keep that steamroller rolling and go all the way to the lead.
He has the momentum in his favor, and I would have to say that he's probably in the best position of the 2 riders.
Let's go back and take a look at what happened just before we went to commercial and see what befell Jeff Emig and Mike Kedrowski.
Dave, they call it being in the right place at the right time. Stanton was. He squeaks by on the inside as, watch this, Emig bobbles. He's hit from behind by Kedrowski. They're down. Stanton takes over the number 2 position.
And from there, Jeff Stanton has ridden right to the rear wheel of Mike LaRocco, making his Kawasaki debut here in 1992 with a golden opportunity. I'll tell you what, you get hired by a new team, nothing better than going out and winning the first race.
I'm sure that's running through LaRocco's mind. What's running through Stanton's mind? Make the pass, take the win. He wants to start this season with 25 points. That's what you get for capturing that main event. 2 times a champion, he wants it one more time.
He's running out of laps and running out of time. LaRocco has been smooth, consistent. He's covering the inside and keeping Stanton at bay. And so the pressure, oh, look at this move. He belts him.
He does indeed. Going into the corner, he got to the inside of LaRocco. And what really surprises me is LaRocco did not go down because he hit him a pretty good lick. Anyhow, LaRocco holds on to the #1 spot. Stanton's still chasing.
Has LaRocco withstood Stanton's best shot? Remains to be seen. Meanwhile, look at Jean-Michel Bale, series champ. First time we've seen him in the main event. Battle for 5th and 6th with Doug Dubach, and it's a good one. Bale on the bottom of the racetrack. Dubach up high, takes the double jump, hangs on to the position.
Bale with that terrible start has worked his way up this far, and it looks like he's going to be mired there. Probably tired by this time.
Not a great start for the series champion. Bale undoubtedly happy that there are 15 more races after tonight. #7, Mike LaRocco, hoping there are 15 more just like this one. He's about to lap Guy Cooper. White flag is out. I think he's got him covered, Lair.
I think he does, Dave, but I'll tell you, he can't afford to make any kind of mistake. I know we said this earlier in that 125 race, but Jeff Stanton did not come this far to give up. And Stanton is going to be driving all the way to the finish line on this one. Now, you watch him.
There's Papa LaRocco. Mike's dad is also his mechanic. Now, he's not signaling that his kid's #1. He's signaling those lap riders to get out of the way because my kid's coming through with a chance to win this thing, and he doesn't want any guy a lap down to knock Mike LaRocco off. Stanton is still there, potential perhaps for some kind of a miracle, but LaRocco is headed for home. Here comes Stanton trying to make one last. Whoa, and Stanton is off the motorcycle. Stanton has crashed out of 2nd spot. Here comes Jeff Ward, #6. Is he going to get by? He does. Ward, starting his final season of Supercross, will finish 2nd to Mike LaRocco. Big development on the last lap. LaRocco wins it. Here comes Ward turning for home. Stanton crashed on the next to last set of whoopsie-doos and will settle for 3rd spot. Quite a finish to an unbelievable night here in Orlando. As 37,000 fans come to their feet to salute this man, Mike LaRocco, let's take a look at the results. LaRocco the winner over Ward and Stanton. Bradshaw up off the ground back to finish 4th. His teammate Doug Dubach 5th. Bale the series champ 6th. Ward, Emig, Kudrowski, and Lamson round out the top 10. Let's go to Bob Hanna with Mike LaRocco.
Well, with the winner, Mike LaRocco, first ride on Team Kawasaki, first ride in 1992, and you pull up the lead. How's it feel?
It feels great. I'm on a new bike. Things were questionable going into this race, but I felt real good, and Stan was riding a better pace, but I was on front, and in a track like this, you do what you got to do to keep behind you.
How about your teammates finally, Stanton going down the last lap, and your teammate coming in 2nd? That make you feel good?
Yeah, it feels real good. It's good for Kawasaki. We win the opening round with the first 2 places, so it sets us up good for the series.
Great ride, and good luck the rest of the year.
All right, as we check the series standings, Larry Myers, final thoughts on the opener.
Well, what we saw here this evening is not what we'll be witnessing throughout the rest of the series, I assure you of that. The hot guys were back in the pack, had to work their way forward, and the very fact that there was time for them to do that tells me that it's going to be a tight battle among 2 or 3 riders.
For tonight, Mike LaRocco is the hero. We'll have a whole lot more next week from the Houston Astrodome. Until then, Dave Despain. For Larry Myers and Bob Hanna, so long, everyone. The world leader in motorsports coverage presents Speed World. Welcome to Houston, Texas, where the local sports